One man preached love, the other built empires. Who changed history? While Christianity had to wait centuries to finally influence the laws of men, Islam was the law from its very first breath in Medina. Critics often say Islam spread by the sword, while Christianity spread by the word. But we have to ask the dangerous question: did Muhammad simply understand something that Jesus didn't? Did he realize that for a message to truly survive in a brutal tribal world, it needs the iron protection of a state and an army? Look at the legacies they left behind. Jesus left the New Testament, a collection of stories, letters, and mysterious parables. He gave the world high moral ideals: turn the other cheek, and he who is without sin cast the first stone. But he gave absolutely no instructions on how to run a central bank, how to conduct a legal divorce, or how to declare a just war. Because of this, Western civilization has spent 2,000 years in a state of constant bloody schizophrenia, trying to figure out how to be both Christian and practical. The result has been a never-ending tension between the church and the state. Muhammad left no such ambiguity. He gave the world the Quran and the Sunnah, a literal step-by-step manual for every single aspect of human existence: hygiene, inheritance, international diplomacy, and criminal justice. Muhammad didn't just tell you to be a good person, he told you exactly how to build a functioning nation. This is why even today the Islamic world feels more unified in its core identity than the fractured, secularized West. One man gave us a moral compass to find our way in the dark. The other gave us a map, a compass, and a set of laws to build the road itself. But here is the trap that history sets for us. Does a rigid map prevent a civilization from exploring new territories, or does a vague compass leave you hopelessly lost in the woods of history? In the end, we are left with two completely different archetypes of human greatness. Jesus is the ultimate subversive. He challenged power by ignoring it, eventually letting it destroy his body to prove a spiritual point. Muhammad is the ultimate architect. He challenged power by seizing it, refining it, and handing a polished empire over to his successors. If you measure impact by the transformation of the individual heart and the silent spread of an idea, Jesus might be your winner. But if you measure impact by the creation of a global culture, a legal system, and a geopolitical force that has never wavered for 1,400 years, then the merchant from Mecca stands alone in the annals of time. So I ask you, not as a believer of any faith, but as a cold student of history, if you were building a world from scratch, whose foundation would you choose? The silent sacrifice of the cross or the thundering justice of the caliphate? This isn't just a question about the ancient past. It's a question about what kind of power you believe in today. The facts are on the table. Now it's your turn to fight it out in the comments. Who actually changed the world more? Tell me why I'm wrong, or tell me why I'm right. Just remember, history is written by the bold, but it is remembered only by those who are brave enough to ask the unanswered questions. Imagine a world without them. No cathedrals stretching toward the European sky. No minarets calling across the vast deserts of Asia. No Gregorian calendar marking your days. No Sharia law shaping the destiny of nations. Our entire modern reality is nothing more than a long shadow cast by two men who lived centuries apart, in the most desolate, unforgiving corners of the Middle East. One was a carpenter's son from Nazareth who never held a sword, yet managed to conquer the Roman Empire from a wooden cross. The other was an orphaned merchant from Mecca who built an empire from the shifting sands, creating a blueprint for civilization that still governs over 1 billion lives today. But behind the prayers, the stained glass, and the sacred chants, there is a brutal historical reality that most are too afraid to voice. Who actually changed the world more? Was it the martyr who surrendered to his executioners, or the visionary who led his armies to victory? To find the answer, we must strip away the Sunday school stories and the mosque lectures. We must look at the raw, unfiltered force of history. This is the ultimate showdown of human influence. Jesus began his journey in a land suffocating under the iron boot of Rome. He was a manual laborer, a man of the soil, living in a world where might made right. Yet his message was a psychological earthquake. Love your enemies. In a world built on Roman legionary strength, he preached that weakness was the ultimate power. He had no palace, no treasury, and only 12 confused followers who barely understood his parables. For 3 short years he wandered as a homeless preacher, eventually being executed as a common criminal, nailed to a tree between 2 thieves. To any objective observer in the year 33 AD, Jesus was a spectacular failure, a forgotten footnote in the vast ledgers of Rome. Now shift your gaze to the year 610 AD. Muhammad, a successful but deeply troubled merchant, sits in the pitch-black silence of a cave on Mount Hira. He was not just a dreamer. He was a man of cold, hard action. When he began preaching in Mecca, he didn't just face theological debate. He faced a total economic and social boycott. His followers were tortured in the streets, and his life was constantly under threat. But here is the massive fundamental difference that changed history. When Jesus was persecuted, he stayed and he died. When Muhammad was persecuted, he migrated and he organized. He went to Medina not as a helpless refugee, but as a founding father. He turned a spiritual message into a political constitution. Jesus sought to change the human soul, but Muhammad sought to build a human society from the ground up. One was a spirit, the other was a state. Which is the harder task? To change what a man believes in his heart, or to change the laws that govern his every move? Let's talk about the spread of these faiths, because this is where the blood meets the sand. For 3 long centuries, Christianity was like a viral infection within the Roman Empire. It grew through the blood of martyrs, not the steel of soldiers. Christians were burned as human torches in the gardens of Nero and hunted like animals in the catacombs. They had no weapons, only an unshakable belief in a kingdom that was not of this world. Their victory was a slow-motion takeover that took 300 years to reach the throne of Constantine. It was a victory of sheer persistence over overwhelming power. Islam, however, exploded like a supernova. Within a single decade of Muhammad's death, his followers had crushed the 2 greatest superpowers of the age, the Byzantines and the Persians. This wasn't a slow burn. It was a wildfire that consumed the world. Muhammad didn't just leave behind a group of grieving followers. He left behind a professional army, a sophisticated tax system, and a rigid legal framework.